Welcome to the Best of Investing on Talk 910, the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm proud to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing mortgage investment firm, and Patti Cohn of Pacific Union Realty. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. You're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouseresortandmarina.com. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. Check them out. Today's trivia theme is miscellaneous trivia. Okay? Just a little bit of hodgepodge there.
Nice.
Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Now, a couple of articles I wanted to cover. One of them is activists urge pension board to get rid of oil investments.
Oh, no, they're back.
They're back. It says the global warming activists peppered Marin pension trustees with urgent pleas to dump more than $35 million in fossil fuel investments Wednesday, saying the fate of the planet is at stake. So
that's nonsense. Only in Marin, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've always said is, we've had at least 5 ice ages over the last, 10,000 years. Why did the ice melt the first 4 times?
Right.
Right. I mean, we didn't have all these factories and all
We
this
can
kind of
spend the
stuff.
rest of the show debating whether or not it's global warming, global cooling. Is it man-made? How much is it man-made? And is it going to happen anyway? Whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing about global warming. I'm just saying how much did, quote, humankind had to have to do with it. Because, again, the first ice age 10,000 years ago, they didn't have the cars and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But anyway, the show's not necessarily about that. But so kind of interesting, do the citizens, how much input should they have? Because on one hand, we're all screaming for returns. Now, I'm not saying that, oil is the best place to invest or tobacco stocks or anything like that, but, the objective is to get the highest return, ergo, so that we, the people, don't get our taxes raised to have to feed the pensions, for these retirees. So, where's the tug and pull?
And everything that I've read about funds that are managed by a social agenda are big losers.
Yeah.
Show me one that's providing above average returns, and I'll be all excited about it.
I think Calvert has. They were one of the first ones to have a socially conscious fund. I think that one's done okay.
Yeah.
I haven't checked it recently, but Patti, you were going to make a comment about that, though.
Well, I mean, it's 2 things come to mind. Is one, put your money where your mouth is. Are you up for doing that?
Yeah.
And then we make these basic decisions every single day. It's trivial as in the grocery store. Do I get organic strawberries or don't I?
And really, what is organic, right? Because people, they might have an idea. The same thing with like certain companies or even mutual funds. They'll say, let's invest in XYZ mutual fund because it's a good conservative fund that is socially conscious. But then, there's certain companies in there that might have certain things that they do that aren't exactly toeing the line.
Right.
So,
well, and then you've got all the companies that are advertising that they're green. And some of the most ridiculous companies are advertising that they're green. I just think it's just the latest buzzword.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not necessarily, maybe I'm being a little bit overly critical, and I'm not suggesting that these things are not important. That's not important. It is important to conserve energy. It is important to, I think, monitor our impact on the planet. But I just question, the motives, motivation, and the information. In fact, I mean, when you say what is organic, so do we really know when we go into a store and every other thing in the store is screaming organic? What do we really know by that? That to me, that's akin to just believing everything you read on the internet.
Right.
Right. That's a good point.
I don't know that I trust.
I mean, even plastic is natural, right? Because it takes the planet to produce the products to produce the plastic. But
Exactly.
Anyway,
What's the and really, it's a good point because what is the integrity behind organic? And if organic is not regulated.
That's right. I want to see those chickens being free range running around.
Yeah.
Good.
Well,
I'm really happy.
I saw someone expose program about how it isn't regulated, and it is all fresh and all that, but not to get gross here, but there was like feces on the food.
We can't use
It's
that on the
organic.
radio.
Yeah, really, that is organic, isn't it? No.
Yeah,
Well, fertilizer,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's all organic.
Okay, let's move on from that gross topic. Patty, you had a couple of interesting things you want to share with us?
Well, the big question always is, where's the market? How's it going? Are prices going up? Should I wait to sell my house? Is it a good time to buy?
Are we in a
And-
bubble?
Are we in a bubble? All
Bubble
of that.
Where's the bubble?
All of that. And here's the facts. In the past 15 months in the entire Bay Area, we had 15% appreciation. The prior 12 months before that, it was 24%. And that was way long overdue. That was just after hitting the bottom.
Yeah.
So,
And that was 24% from the bottom.
From the bottom.
Yeah,
so it's not like we had, 20 the year before.
exactly.
Let's go down 40 from the peak, maybe. So, and we're pretty much back at the peak. It depends on the price range, depends on the town, the neighborhood, and all that. So the good news is what's the buzz I'm hearing out there in real estate world is everybody's kind of stunned, like, what's going on? It's so slow. Well, it's that way in the summer. August is the second slowest month behind December. And the truth of the matter is a 15% appreciation in the last 12 months after 24% is really nice.
Sure.
So are we headed for a bubble? What's going to happen the next 12? That's always the big question. That kind of, and you can also watch what investors are doing. So the percentage of investors in the past 12 months has also gone down, which is good.
Yes.
And it's also very strong amount of investors are in the game, which tells you that they have the thought that prices are going to continue to go up, because that's why they get in the game usually.
Okay.
So, and 30% of those investors are foreign, mostly from China. And Chinese buyers, they are very, they're pretty much a long-term hold.
Yeah.
So back to that. So what's really happening? Why are we, here's my stand. We're not headed for a bubble.
Okay.
And particularly in the Bay Area. And here's why. Number one, in the last 4 years, jobs have outpaced inventory by 200%.
Oh, I would say that is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people don't have the jobs. That's where they can't afford the house.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have land to develop. So it's not like a lot of builders are going to come in and start doing the tract houses. Not going to happen. We have in fact, in the entire country, we've got the lucrative jobs that people want, the Bay Area. So when you put all these things together, we're not headed for a bubble.
What I find interesting, Patty, about all this talk of are we in a bubble or not, is that anyone with an opinion will be happy to share with you what they think is going on. And I talk to a lot of people who say, I think we're in a bubble because of this, that, and the other thing. Or someone will write an article saying, I believe we're in a bubble because of this or that reason. And yet that's really, more often than not, one person's opinion who has a forum to shout from. Here's an article from the San Francisco Business Times that basically mirrors what you've been saying. This is from last week's edition. It says, housing bubble in San Francisco, and then it has the word nah, N-A-A-A-A. It says, and I'm just going to give you a couple of bullet points from it. It says, we have an affordability crisis, no doubt, but relative to fundamentals, San Francisco is not in a price bubble.
Interesting.
A bubble occurs when prices are high relative to what is normal for the area. And now they don't go into detail into what fundamentals they use, but it says that compared to the fundamentals of income, rents, and supply and demand, at most, homes are maybe 6% overvalued in San Francisco.
Oh,
And they compare that, he said, using the same, and again, they don't give the actual raw data, but it says in this article, compared using the same data from 2006, the 2006 data showed that prices were 53% overvalued in San Francisco.
Okay, so that's where your bubble is. Okay, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. And I'm sorry, whenever I hear bubble, I keep thinking, it's not Oops, it's Moors, you idiot.
Bubble Boy.
Bubble
The Bubble
Boy
Boy.
from Seinfeld.
That's what I
There we
think
go.
of too.
Yeah.
Oops.
Moops. Okay. All right, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here. The trivia theme is miscellaneous. All right.
That's how I get you.
All right, ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit more on the weapons side. All right, the Uzi was developed in which country? Right? Everyone knows what an Uzi is, right? Like an AK-47, I guess it's the same thing. The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. The Uzi was developed in which country? Don't touch that dial because the best of investing will be right back.
I have a guess, but I'm not going to share it.
Okay.
I almost asked you on there, but I'm thinking, I don't know where the Lighthouse Resort is. Don't you think people want to know?
Well, I say it's
Am
1
I the
hour
only-
northeast of San Francisco.
I don't even know. Where is it?
Okay,
It's a
between
Delta
Rio-
resort.
Yeah, it's between Rio Vista and
Oh,
Stockton.
cool.
There's a couple of other interesting. Oh, your glasses.
Oh,
Yeah. I can see clear, but it's already 5 feet away. He's fuzzy.
Yeah.
Pricey digs. The percent of for sale homes that are affordable to the middle class. Of course, they don't define the middle class, but that's 14%, 34, 40.
Yeah.
That's interesting source.
Well,
Trulia. So,
I remember. I remember 1990. It was 11%, and then it got.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's all relative. It's a Bay Area.
It really is.
always.
Yeah. And what do these numbers even really mean? Well, everybody knows San Francisco. I mean, this is. If you had told me that number was 11 or 20, I wouldn't. It's just it's.
Part of the equation is interest rates, because when I got in the business in 1989, it was 11%. 11% was the affordability index, but also interest rates were like, I remember when people were jumping up and down because it was under 10,
Yeah.
and interest rates were like 11 and 12.
Yeah.
So the affordability is based on average income, putting 20% down.
Yeah.
What would their payment be? A third, blah
We
blah
might want
blah.
to cover that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get like that. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Always have to be careful. It's funny. I had a towel there because when I do the sports show, Vern used to go like this all the time. Don't do that.
Yeah, you can hear it. Yeah.
Okay. You ready? Here we go. Welcome back to the best of investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bubble Boy. No, I'm just kidding. Mark Hunt, my co-host of Pacific Private Money, and Patti Cohen. When we get to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. The Uzi was developed in which country? Mark, do you think you know the answer?
I think I do. Israel?
That is correct.
Ah,
Israel.
look at that.
Very good.
I know my guns.
Yeah.
Even though I don't own one.
Yeah, I don't own one either. Well, actually, I got a little pellet gun,
There are
BB
times
gun.
when I'm glad I don't own a gun because I tend to get a little bit, road ragey.
Yes.
I would be telling that to Dominican.
Yeah, exactly. Tell you what, there was one other quick little article here that I wanted to go, but before I do, guess what? Next week we're going to have another special trivia contest. This time it's going to be the Sanctuary Beach Resort in Monterey. So have you been there?
I was just down there 2 weeks ago.
Really? Nice
Yeah,
place,
it
isn't
is
it?
very nice.
Yeah, okay, relax, rejuvenate, and unwind. Experience the tranquil ambiance of Sanctuary Beach Resort in the heart of Monterey Bay. To plan your getaway to Sanctuary Beach Resort, call 877-944-3863. That's 877-944-3863. Sanctuary Beach Resort, where nature converges with comfort and style. And, how about taking your honey there during the wintertime? Very romantic. Everyone keeps thinking, oh, let's go in the summertime. But, down in Monterey, like you said, you were just there. Well, it's the summertime. But in the wintertime, it's very romantic. The fog coming in, the fireplaces, and all that stuff.
Absolutely. The best 2 months are September and October.
Yeah, exactly. Very good.
Maybe in summer.
Okay, so that's next week. We're going to have a special trivia contest. Wanted to go, a quick little article here is, get this, Congress, ignoring history, considers turning over tax debts to private collection agencies. Now, for many, many years, and in fact, actually 20 years ago they tried this, and it didn't work very well there because the unfair practices and harassment by the private debt collectors. So they said, well, that's not very good, and they went back to just having IRS agents and collection agencies. the IRS collection agency, trying to collect. But I guess for some reason they weren't doing it very well, so they're now thinking, nope, let's go back and go back to trying to have a private collection.
Are they saying the number of uncollected tax debt is increasing significantly?
It must be, or else they wouldn't be considering it.
Mm.
This is interesting because Senator Schumer, I don't think he's one of my favorite senators, if I remember correctly, insists this time it'll be different.
Of course.
Now, some think that what's driving him is a combination of wishful thinking together with a complete misperception about the tax gap, and not just because his state is home to 2 of the 4 private collection agencies that stand to benefit from this bill.
Interesting. And
You
I'll
said
tell you.
Port Farrell politics was dead.
Yeah,
And a
exactly.
big reason why collection agencies aren't doing well anymore, Mr. Schumer, is because iPhones. Back in the day, they'd call your house, you'd be dinner time, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
iPhones. People don't pick up numbers, they don't recognize them many times.
Good point.
Once they do get one of these phone calls, they go right into their little contact, they block the number.
Yep.
And they block it again, and you call from another, and they block it again, and they block it again, and they block it again, you're out of business.
Wow,
People have
very
no
interesting.
tolerance for this anymore. And I'm not saying that it's good to be a deadbeat, but I'm just saying it's more difficult to get.
Well, I know, I'm bored. I need people to talk to. Maybe I'll purposely not pay my bills, and then hopefully these guys will call.
Well, let's go for a drink, and we can make shortcut a lot of things if you want to talk.
That's true.
So I've got a question for Patti. I wonder, do you have any thoughts on this upcoming Zillow and Trulia merger? And I'm asking you because there was an article in the Chronicle recently talking about this, and wondering whether it could alter the business of real estate, which, as we know, for many, many, many decades has been, one of individual agency relationships. And since you're a top agent in Marin County, you probably maybe had some conversations about, what that potentially portends for the industry in the years to come.
And has Zillow gotten more accurate? I
No.
mean, it seems like.
And the good news for real estate agents really is that they are not accurate.
Okay.
And all the more reasons why the public needs us. They really do. And see, if Zillow was consistently high or consistently low, you could factor that in, but they are all over the place.
Oh, that's a good point.
And especially the Bay Area where we don't have tract housing. And tract housing you can pretty much predict.
Sure.
But I have seen, here's what I have noticed. In the low end, I don't know, let's call it under $1.5 million, they tend to be high.
Okay.
In the multi-million dollar price ranges, they tend to be low, like half.
Oh, I didn't
You
know.
might find $5 million houses, they're gonna say it's $2.5 million.
And
That's a little scary.
is some of that have to do with a lot of times they don't have the correct square footage?
It's so intrinsic, like just take Ross, for example.
They just go, I can't believe that house would be worth that much, so I'm going to cut it in half.
Right, I mean,
There's an algorithm. There's no human being that's coming up with that number. For example, we made a loan on a property in Tiburon that the listing agent's going to put on the market in the teens, like $13 million, and I gave it a value for lending purposes of 8, knowing that he'd probably get 10.
right,
But Zillow thinks it's worth 4.
right,
I mean, so that's just
crazy money.
obscenely all over the map.
all over the map, yeah. So back to what Zillow's doing. See, Zillow, if you think about how does Zillow make money? Zillow, talk about calls that I block. I know all about this blocking because every single day I must get 3 or 4 calls from Zillow salespeople asking me to advertise with them because they're basically taking our listings that we really own.
Right, the MLS.
They're putting them on their site and they're charging us to get the leads. And that's fine, it's an okay model, it's just what's happening, but I don't play that game, but a lot of people do buy leads that way. But the Zillow leads really don't get us where we need to go because they're mostly buyers and they're mostly low end. But back to how that impacts the, Redfin is a pretty good company, not for real estate agents because they don't really have any agents that are working this area. And that's a whole other story. I won't bad mouth them. But they have a really good site. So Redfin is wanting to get the big companies to not share the IDX, not share their listings. Be very careful on who we give our listings out because if all realtors and brokerages decided not to share our listings with Zillow, then they wouldn't have a business.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's kind of ironic that we're feeding them the information and they're charging us to get it.
I mean, they would, we go from public record, they can at least know what has been sold.
Right,
But, yeah.
right.
So Zillow's buying Trulia, and Zillow founder Rich Barton was part of what helped destroy the travel agency business with his previous company, Expedia.
Oh.
So the question is, will he, is it his goal to do the same thing in real estate, and is that even really possible? Because it's really certainly an apples and oranges.
It's a
comparison.
personal service because the same
Yeah.
thing with insurance.
Right.
A lot of times these companies are going, we don't want to pay insurance agents. Let's just go direct to the consumer.
Right.
The problem is that you have a situation where people have to know what they want, and when you're dealing with people's health,
Yeah.
it's a whole different animal. You really need good advice.
Yeah.
But, like here, you, Patty, you're a top agent. The idea of using you, I could see is worth literally, and if you're talking $1 million house, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars because
Potentially, yeah.
because you're going to help know where the seller. Let's say if I'm a buyer, you'll probably know a lot more accurately than the average person where that seller is really going to accept an offer.
Right. And part of what they might accept it is because of the relationship I have with the seller and with the agent, and it's a relationship business.
Exactly.
And the relationships happen at the kitchen table when they're signing that listing agreement, and it's trust.
Yeah.
It's the biggest. We're dealing with homeowners,
Yeah.
and it's the biggest asset they have.
Yeah.
They're not going to have a computer list their house, and it reminds me of the early '80s when real estate was kind of in a big huff about, oh my God, now the prices and all our information, our addresses and our pricing and our listings are all going to be out on the computer. They won't need us anymore.
Oh yeah.
They still do.
Yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, you've probably done better
absolutely.
because of it.
The business is a lot easier.
Well, it goes on to say in the article that buyers and sellers like getting professional advice on such a large transaction, which I agree
Yeah,
with.
absolutely.
And another player thinks that real estate will always be a professionally assisted transaction. It's just that these services like Zillow, Trulia, and Redfin serve to just help make the consumer more aware of choices, options, and certainly the speed in which a transaction can occur, because you can see the pictures of the property right there online. It helps to facilitate it, but at the end of the day, I know myself personally, I'm a licensed real estate broker, but I broker money. I don't sell houses. I am not going to personally try to sell a house or buy a house, even though I'm licensed to do so,
Right.
because quite frankly, I feel like I need a help professional.
Exactly. So back to that. That's what the consumers are doing. They're going on there to get preliminary advice, but then they're going to the realtor.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
The Zillow is making their money from the realtors, from our listings. Is how it
Interesting.
works. 'Cause that's how they make their money. That's the model.
Okay, tell you what, we're going to cut to our second commercial break here. This question, again, another gun question. Interesting here. What type of gun did Clint Eastwood prefer to use in Dirty Harry? All right.
I think I know that one
Do you
too.
think you know that one? Well, do you, punk?
Make my day.
That's it. Go ahead. Make my day. All right, call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What type of gun did Clint Eastwood prefer to use in Dirty Harry? And again, don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back, and we have a couple of interesting emails from listeners. One of them we have from Patty talks about the strategy of waiting until spring to list your house, and we're going to find out whether or not that old adage is still true. So don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back.
Look at that.
I
Teases
forgot.
them. Teases the audience.
That's right. Again,
I can't wait.
Cliffhanger on
I
the
know.
commercial. Keep me in suspenders.
Oh
Who
my
shot
God.
JR?
Yeah.
I know.
Sister-in-law.
Fun.
Always enjoyable.
Here's where my ignorance of guns will show up. It's a Magnum, but I don't know what the number is. Magnum 37, 57, 47,
Keep-
13.
I was gonna
Magnum
Height.
PI.
I was gonna say 357. I don't know.
Oh, maybe that's it. Magnum 357. That what it is? I thought that was the engine size in my
I don't know.
357 Chevy.
I was just on the phone with Lexus trying to pair my.
Wait a minute.
I have no idea.
No, it's a 57 Chevy. Oh, why does that sound right? But it can't be.
I was just on the phone with Lexus trying to
Yes.
repair my car, and they asked me what model do you have, and I really don't know.
Well, you know what?
Doesn't matter.
You know what's the funny thing nowadays is what's your license plate number?
I don't know.
Oh, do you remember the old days though? I used to know that, like, because you used to
Yeah.
you have to for some reason when you fill up gas, you'd always have to know. I don't know
Right.
why they did
But
that.
what's your wife's phone number? I used to know phone numbers like a savant. I don't do it. I don't know anything anymore. I really was
Well, I
crazy.
know my.
I used to be a savant.
I was a savant in my dreams many times.
Yeah.
In my
And then I went
youth.
to the doctor and I got it cleared up. All righty. Anyway,
Good. This is so fun. It goes so fast.
let's try this again. Hold on a second here. Who first? Let's start all over again. That was an oopsies.
Flood twice. That's a record.
I know. After 200 shows, you got to figure.
That's right. Isn't this our 4-year anniversary show?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, we started August 14th.
Mid-month, yeah.
Let's try this again. I put this over here. I won't make that mistake.
I like this. I'll continue to do it if you want. If you want me to.
You're doing a great job. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with the famous Mark Hunt of Pacific Private Money. And oh, the audience couldn't see that, but that was funny. You have to just watch it on TV. And Patti Cohen of Pacific Union Realty. When we got to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question: what type of gun did Clint Eastwood prefer to use in Dirty Harry? Now, Patti, you know the answer to this one.
I do.
Yes.
That
What is it?
357 Magnum.
Yes, it is a 357 Magnum.
That was Magnum PI.
I was
Yeah,
kidding.
Magnum PI. No, you thought it was a 57 Chevy. Okay. All right. So we teased the audience a little bit with an email that we received for Patti here. It says, "Is the old strategy of waiting until spring to put your house on the market still a good one?" That's a good question because that always seemed to be the typical situation if we wait till spring.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah.
going on?
Well, that's such a good question. It comes up all the time, and you know, seasonality in real estate. There's definitely seasons where it seems like a better time to sell. However, what you really want to look at is supply and demand curves.
Okay.
And generally speaking, the supply and demand curves follow each other throughout the year. So the
Yeah, because a lot of people don't put their house on the market, let's say in November, but if you're kind of interested in looking for a house, there's only so much to choose from, right?
Right.
Okay.
So our two slowest months are December and August. And so it's not like it's a bad time to sell in those times because there's less
Yeah.
competition. And again, there are fewer buyers. So part of, and I have seasonality graphs for many, many years, and I'm happy to share them with anybody if they want to call in. I can email it to you. And another thing I wanted to say too is what you want to do in life in general is look what everybody else is doing and do the opposite.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if
that's true,
you know, if everybody's putting their house on in the spring, let's not do that. And what I would also mention too that people don't really think about is if you have an untraditional house, put it on at an untraditional time
Oh, good point.
because untraditional buyers are looking then.
Very good.
So
Very good.
a traditional house would be the picket fence in the end of the cul-de-sac, which would be the traditional time, and you're not going to be competing. You don't want to compete with those pretty houses and all those people with soccer moms with the kids in tow looking at the houses on the open houses.
Okay.
So absolutely the best time to sell is mid-February.
And how many times do you have an open house on Super Bowl Sunday?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the wives come, but
The
they're
wives
they have
come,
nothing
exactly.
else to do. They're not. We want buyers. You know,
Yeah.
or Mother's Day.
Yeah, but a lot of times, though, I would think that the wives would and then they would say, hey, husband, tomorrow, guess what we're checking
Oh,
out.
they're driving the bus for that, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you've got an untraditional house to me would be you have 2 or 3 flaws, meaning
Oh, okay.
busy street, 57 steps up to the property, crazy floor plan, hillside lot. If you have, or bizarre, some things that are just not going to work.
Yeah.
No backyard at all whatsoever.
Okay.
So 2 flaws, okay. When you've got 3 flaws, you got to be really careful. Put it on an untraditional time because untraditional people are shopping then.
And then they'll be willing to say, okay, no big deal, the 57 steps, if it's priced right.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So you said for the listeners, you give out some kind of a free.
I have a bar graph of
Okay.
supply and demand curves for the last
Very
12 months.
good. Okay, well,
Yeah.
tell us how we can get them.
Oh, email me at patti.cohn, C-O-H-N, at packunion.com.
Okay.
Or call me,
What's your number?
415-722-4842.
Okay, and she's also on the Best of Investing website. You can check her out there. That's an easy way too. People remember our radio show here. Okay, excellent. Mark, an email came in from, I guess, somebody who's thinking about investing with you. But, there's a lot of people who, they just feel more comfortable emailing us here rather than just, calling your office, which, by the way, Mark's not a
Some
hard
people
sell.
don't want to be sold.
Yeah, and you're not a hard sell guy.
Not at all.
No.
So here's a question. Is there a minimum time period I have to keep my money with you if I invest in your fund?
Okay, so at Pacific Private Money, we have a mortgage pool fund that is currently paying fund shareholders a annualized rate of 8.25% if they're taking cash distributions, and 8.55 is our trailing 12-month returns if you're letting the earnings ride and buying additional shares, which a lot of our IRA investors are in fact doing, because some of our folks are not yet taking IRA distributions. So mortgage pool fund is essentially a collection of real estate secured notes. And so we're a private money lender in the Bay Area. We specialize in making loans that the banks are currently saying no to, and for all likelihood will continue to say no a lot more in the coming years. So we think our business model is very strong. We're on par to do about 70 million in new loan originations in 2014, and our mortgage pool fund is doing a small chunk of that. The rest are being funded by high net worth private individuals that we work with. But our mortgage pool fund is really for the more average investor who is accredited, meaning they've got a net worth of $1 million or more. And that's a government requirement, it's not our requirement. And the other thing is that they're more passive in nature. They're not necessarily experts in real estate and don't want to own an individual note. Owning individual notes is popular among a subset of real estate investors, but again, for the most part, for people who are just looking for a way to boost the yield in their savings and retirement accounts, having an investment diversifying into a mortgage pool fund is something that I'm very bullish on. And again, our mortgage pool fund is secured by, is providing yields up to 8.5%, secured by loans on real estate, mostly in the Bay Area. So the question was, if I invest in your fund, Mark, how long do I have to leave the money in? Well, our mortgage pool fund is not a money market account, so we do not want people who will put in $50,000 or $100,000 or more and then keep it in for 90 days because they want to make as much as they can. It's their maybe a down payment for a house or so. That's really not what the goal of the fund is. I mean, we have a real business model, and so we've asked for a 2-year commitment for the funds. Some funds are longer. In fact, many funds are longer, and some funds could be shorter. But our particular fund, which is a non-leveraged fund also, which is again very important. Number of important issues in a mortgage pool fund that you would want to investigate. Again, we can provide information to you to help you make that decision as to whether a mortgage pool fund is right for you. But the core question is 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. But the thing is, if people need to get their money out before 2 years, they can.
Oh yeah, they can. I mean, there's an early redemption fee, but it's not punitive. So, for example, if you earned 8% in the first year, and in year 2, let's say month 13, 14, 15, you got to get your money out. Well, at that point, the redemption fee would be 3%. So it starts out at 5 and goes down to 4. The longer you keep your money in, as it gets closer to 2 years, the closer to 0 that redemption fee becomes. After 24 months, there is no charge whatsoever to pull your money out. So another thing that's important about most mortgage pool funds, including ours at Pacific Private Money, is that there's no load to get in whatsoever, and there's no fee after 2 years to get your money out. So you put $100,000 in, $100,000 in full starts earning for you, and then after 2 years, you can redeem that. Now, if you've been taking distributions, all of the cash distributions, you're getting your whole $100,000 out at the end. If you're allowing it to grow, it's going to grow at the compounded rate that the fund is producing, which right now is 8.55%.
And if somebody got out in month 13, then if you're paying 8.25%, they're taking their distributions. Even if they paid a 3% penalty, they're still left with 5.25%. How many 13-month CDs are paying 5.25%?
Well, and that's actually a really good point. So technically, and I didn't design it that way, but I guess maybe it won't surprise me to see maybe people pulling out. It hasn't happened yet, but it wouldn't surprise me to have people pull out going, well, 5% is still better than I was going to get.
Sure.
Anyway.
And if people pull out early, that actually helps all the other investors.
It does, because
That's true.
the redemption fees actually are income of the fund. That's absolutely correct.
Very good.
So
Okay.
to learn more about mortgage pool funds, because they are an important investment option if you're looking for ways to take advantage of the high yields that these real estate-based alternative investments provide, you can go to our website, which provides a lot of information there. That's at pacificmoneyfund.com. Of course, all one word, www. That's easy for me to say. 3 W's and a Pacific Money Fund. pacificmoneyfund.com, or call us, leave a message over the weekend. We'll get back to you next week and send you some information by email. Our phone number is 415-883-2150. Again, 415-883-2150.
Great. We're going to cut to our third and final commercial break. Here's the trivia question. If you hear that you are required to follow the Marquess of Queensberry rules, what are you participating in? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. If you hear that you are if you hear that you are required to follow the Marquess of Queensberry rules, what are you participating in? Don't touch that dial, because the best of investing will be right back with some closing comments and a few other little tidbits.
Have a good guess.
Okay. Say it on the air.
You know what's so interesting now? It's like people have got their phones on.
Yeah, I know.
Or Siri, what is Marcus of Queensberry?
Yeah, exactly.
So do you want to do the affordability thing?
Oh, yes. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
get that.
Absolutely.
Want it.
Yep.
Yep. And I'll tell you exactly how much time we have left. Take off my shoes and socks so I can add up the points down here.
Funny.
Got 9 minutes and 22 seconds. And away we go.
How much?
9:22.
Oh, okay. That's not good.
Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time, I'm Edward Brown, your host for the show, and Mark Hahn, my co-host, as well as Patti Cohen. Here's the third commercial break trivia question. If you hear that you are required to follow the Marquess of Queensberry rules, what are you participating in? Mark?
Would that be if I was challenging you to a duel?
No.
Oh, okay. That's my best guess.
Close, though. Boxing. That's the Marquess of Queensberry rules. Basically, you can't pummel the guy while he's down. You got to go back to your to a neutral corner.
Sounds so elegant.
I thought you were
I
still,
thought it was bridge
still,
or something.
It was still
it's
gun
still
related.
gun-related. I know. I had
Two
that's why I said
questions
it's
about
miscellaneous rather than
Miscellaneous.
something on
All
guns. Patti, you got a couple of interesting things you want to share with us.
Well, a part of the question people have is, prices are so higher. Is it still affordable? And, back to, is there going to be a bubble? Well, let me just put a little perspective on it. When I got into business in '89, the Bay Area Affordability Index was 11%. And basically, if you take the average income,
Okay.
and that person would put down 20%,
Yeah, 20%.
how much would their payment be
Okay.
on an 80% loan?
So interest rates are going to be a very important part of this equation.
Very important part. And I remember, when I got in the business, there was some little bit of excitement, like, wow, interest rates are getting below 10%. So let's get a little perspective here. So now we are actually more, while prices have gone way back up. And of course, 6 years ago, with high affordability index, but it's still more affordable now than it was 25 years ago. Even though, because salaries are up,
yeah.
interest rates are down.
Yep.
I mean, there has never been a better time to buy, really.
Okay.
So the affordability index, at least, and I don't know if it's using the same metrics as the 11% that you mentioned, because I do remember that that it was very low affordability index back then, but also from a recent San Francisco Business Times article showing that affordability index of San Francisco at 14%, which shouldn't be surprising because prices have gone up quite a bit there, but San Jose 34% and Oakland 40%. So that's actually that's still relatively high, thanks to low interest rates.
Yeah, that's strong.
Now, the caveat is,
Can you qualify?
can you qualify? Right.
That's true.
I mean, it's really the hard part about comparing real estate in different cycles is the mix of variables. And so, what are the variables we have now? I mean, if you remember back in the 70s under Nixon, we had this thing called stagflation, which was really interesting. We had high inflation, low growth, and high interest rates, and all this other nonsense. And it was and it never happened before. And it's just interesting how every business cycle, every real estate cycle, when we seem to be bumping up against maybe the next potential downturn, it always seems like the variables change. Like you take the dominoes and you mix them all up. So, well, what's going on now? Well, we have incredibly affordable money that has been affordable for now going on a decade. But 10 years ago, anybody could borrow money if you had a good FICO score. Today, it's really difficult to borrow. So now it's nice to look through you're standing outside the glass window looking in at 4.25% interest rates for a 30-year loan, and you can't get it because your credit isn't flawlessly perfect, or they average your last 3 years' income and you had a glitch, and so now so it's just all kinds of
that's another
crazy
variable.
It's getting better though.
There was something
Yes,
else
it
you
is.
had
That's true.
you wanted to share with us, wasn't it? You have something, one of those, no? I thought that for some reason there was something, one of those other, you had a whole list of things that you wanted to cover.
I know.
You must have covered them all.
I covered them all in the
There
first
you go.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Well, basically, we're talking about the investors. Basically, 30% of the investors right now are foreign. There was more foreign money last year, and I think it's close to 40%. 40% of the entire market last year are investors. They were smart. We had 25% appreciation, or 24. So there's fewer investors, fewer foreigners, but still a lot of investors.
Why less investors? Is it because prices are high, or because the global economy is in such a way that they can't afford it?
Well, you're betting, like anything else, you're betting the prices are going to go up. So let's just say a lot of investors already got in, and they're not flooding it either because there's not such a feeling of, wow, it's going to go up, another 20 or 25%, which is great and healthy.
That's exactly, Patty, you're exactly right. I didn't bring the article with me, but for the last 24 months, the percentage of investors, which are basically the all cash buyers, people that aren't going to move into the property, that percentage has been going down. It hasn't been going down, like a rocket, but it's been slowly but surely, with every month, year over year, fewer and fewer as a percentage of the total monthly sales are for investors. So why is that important? Well, why that's important is because the idea is that the higher the percentage of investors that are buying, the more speculative the market is, and therefore the more of a frenzy and like a bubble the real estate market can get. So the fact that that number continues to decline is actually good news, and actually does give some comfort to those who might fear that we're in a bubble and that maybe real estate prices might be in for a major correction, which again, I don't personally subscribe to, but there are people out there, who love to be in that camp that are, running around screaming fire in a crowded theater.
Right. Well, I mean, if you just look at the historical perspective of our country, the old model was, you buy a house, you don't use, before everybody started using their houses as ATM machines.
Yeah.
Before their investors were in the game, you buy a house, you get a 30-year mortgage. Refinancing was really kind of almost shameful.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you say you're having problems.
Yeah.
You wouldn't take a trip by that. You live within your means, you'd get a 30-year mortgage, you'd pay it off, you'd get your pension after working 40 years, and you'd retire.
And you have a burning of the mortgage party.
Yes, exactly. And you didn't have lots of homes, and maybe you had a rental or a duplex or something, but basically that was our model, and you didn't refi, you paid it off. So things are different now, and real estate's more speculative, but at the end of the day, they're people, we all want to live in our homes, and we all want to just enjoy them and hopefully make some money.
Very good.
I did bring the article. So the peak of investors at one point was in January of 2011, when 46% of all home sales were to investors. And that number now is down to 34%. So again, it hasn't been a huge differential, but when that number starts to dip below 30%, we're going to be in a non-speculative market, which again is healthy for real estate.
Very good.
And just a historical perspective on that, we're at 34%. Typically, it's around 20, low 20s.
Low 20s.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I always want to thank my co-hosts, Mark Hoff and Patti Cohen, for being with us in the studio here. Your insights were quite welcome. Well, here's our thoughts for the day. Prior to 1900, prize fights lasted up to 100 rounds.
Ouch.
Can you imagine showing up in the 99th round? I mean, just getting up out of that seat each time.
I can't imagine showing up the first round.
Yeah, but 90,
You?
100 rounds, wow. And they didn't have gloves, so bare knuckles and all that, crazy. And people in nudist colonies play volleyball more than any other sport, and that's better
Scary
that than rugby or darts. Can you imagine? Oh, that'd be a little scary.
Crazy visual.
Yeah, well, don't want to be thinking of that. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.